and a very good day to everyone watching. So today, our group from class AM1204B is very excited to present our ACC116 assignment to you. So for this project, we are focusing on the costing methods. We have chosen to base our project on our business, which we proudly name as Sasa Bites. Before we dive into the details, please let me introduce the members of the group. First, we have Anila Jasmine, followed by Alia Sofia, Sarah Shahira, and Nora Soleha. Everyone played a very important role, and we worked closely together as a team to gather all the data and complete this assignment successfully.
Hello, allow me to introduce Sasa Bites, an enterprise co-managed by Sarah Shahira, Nur Soleha, Alia Sufia, and also Anila Jasmine. Guided by our tagline, Love at First Bite, we are dedicated to delivering premium, affordable snacks, including our signatures milk chocolate choco jars and caramel popcorn. Operating with a focus on systematic and hygienic production in Taman Seremban 3, we strive to provide the best for our community, from students to local families. You can connect with us on TikTok at sasabites06 and also Instagram at sasa_bites_ACC116. Our commitment is to foster continuous innovation and remain a trusted brand synonymous with excellence and customer satisfaction.
Moving on to our assignment protocol. As you can see on the slide, this is the clear timeline that helped our team stay organized and on track. Our journey started when we first received the assignment on the May 18. Then we had our first team meeting and business selection on June 4th. Throughout mid-June, we conducted our fieldwork group Project 1 and 2 to collect all necessary information. After doing our draft and recording this presentation video, we will finally submit our full report by July 10.
Next, I will explain about the product costing for our popcorn. First, Sasa Bite used the batch costing method because our popcorn is produced in one uniform batch. This method allows us to calculate the total production cost for each batch and then divide it by the total number of units to determine the cost per unit. Second, for the direct material cost, our production volume is 100 units per week, which is one batch. This production target is based on our sales forecast as a startup. Producing 100 units weekly helps us maintain product freshness while minimizing storage and spoilage costs. Finally, the main raw materials include 3,000 grams of popcorn kernels, 100 grams of margarine, 2,000 grams of sugar, 2,000 milliliters of whipping cream, and 100 units of 700 ml containers. The popcorn kernels are the main ingredient, while the margarine and sugar are used to produce the caramel coating. Whipping cream is create a richer and creamier flavor, and the container ensure the product remains fresh, hygienic, and visually appealing for customers. Next, I will explain about the direct labor cost for our popcorn production. One worker is assigned to a 40-hour work week from Monday to Friday 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. Although the worker performs multiple responsibilities, only the cooking activity is classified as a direct labor because it is directly involved in producing and packing the popcorn. For the wage structure, the total weekly salary is 400, which is divided equally among 4 functional roles. Out of the 40 working hours, 10 hours are allocated to cooking with a direct labor cost of 100 per week. For one worker as shown in the table, the remaining 30 hours are spent in customer service, cleaning, and multimedia management. Since these activities support the business but are not directly involved in production, they are classified as indirect labor and are recorded separately under manufacturing overhead. I will explain the direct expenses related to our popcorn production. Direct expenses refer to the specific tools that are directly required for the cooking process. For our popcorn production, we include a mixing bowl and a set of utensils as the main direct expenses because these items are used to prepare the caramel mixture and combine the ingredient during production. In terms of cost allocation, the mixing bowl costs are 50 ringgit, while the utensil costs 30 ringgit. These expenses are classified as one-time direct expenses because they are necessary for the initial setup of our weekly production batch. Therefore, the total direct expenses for our popcorn production is 80 ringgit. Next, I will explain the indirect material under manufacturing overhead for our popcorn's production. Indirect materials are materials that support the production process but are not directly included in the final product. These materials are important to maintain hygiene, safety, and product quality during production. The material used include dishwashing liquid, plastic glove, hairnets, and box packaging tape. Dishwashing liquid is used to clean and sanitize the mixing bowl and utensil before and after each batch. Plastic glove and hairnets are required as safety measure to prevent food contamination during the cooking and packaging process. Meanwhile, box packaging tape is used to securely seal the popcorn containers, helping to maintain freshness and prevent spills. Based on the allocation, the weekly costs are 9 ringgit for dishwashing liquid, 4 ringgit for plastic glove, 9 ringgit for hairnets, and 2 ringgit for packaging tape. Therefore, the total indirect material cost for our popcorn's production is 24 ringgit per week. Under manufacturing overhead in indirect label, our popcorn production, after the 10 hours allocated for cooking as a direct labor, the remaining 30 working hours are assigned to support activities. These activities are classified as indirect labor because they are not involved directly in producing the popcorn. The indirect labor consists of customer service, or waiter, cleaning, and multimedia management. Each role is allocated 10 hours per week with a wage cost of 100 ringgit per role per week. Based on the allocation, the total cost of indirect labor is 300 ringgit per week, which covers all three support functions. Next, I will explain the indirect expenses under manufacturing overhead for our popcorn production. Indirect expenses include costs that support the overall business's operation but are not directly involved in producing the popcorn. For shared facility costs such as factory rent, utilities, internet, business license, and operational asset, these costs are shared equally between the popcorn and Chokoja product lines. Therefore, only 50% of the monthly costs are allocated for the popcorn production line. Besides that, the commercial popcorn machine is specifically used for popcorn production. The machine cost is depreciated over 5 years or 60 months, resulting in a monthly depreciation expenses of 40 ringgit, which is fully allocated to the popcorn production line. Based on the allocation, the total monthly indirect expenses are 2,830 ringgit, with 1,435 ringgit allocated to the popcorn production line. This results in a weekly indirect expenses allocation of 358 ringgit and 75 cents for popcorn production. Next, for further manufacturing production overhead, I will pass to Sarah.
Thank you, Anila. So now let's moving on to the fourth part, which is allocation of manufacturing overhead costs. So as we can see here, we already have the details for our indirect costs, which is we have 24 ringgit for indirect material, 300 ringgit for indirect labor, and 358 ringgit 75 cents for indirect expenses. So to get the total manufacturing overhead, we simply need to add all of this up. So the total will be 682 ringgit 75 cent per week. So from this total of 682 ringgit 75 cent, we need to find out the cost per unit. So since we produce 100 unit per batch, we divide the total overhead by 100 unit. So as a result, our overhead absorption rate, which is OAR, is 6 ringgit and 83 per unit. So this step is very important because it ensures that every unit we produce cover its fair share of indirect costs, which help us set the right selling price for our product. Okay, now let's look at our total production cost. So to get this, we need to combine two main parts, which is the prime cost and also our manufacturing overhead. So for our prime cost, which cover all the direct material, labor and expenses, total all of that is 540 ringgit Malaysia. So we then can add the total manufacturing overhead of 683 ringgit. So the total production cost for one batch, which is 100 unit, is 1,223 ringgit. So now finally let's look at our profit that we apply, which is 30% profit margin to our total production cost. So by calculating 30% of 1,223 ringgit, we get a profit of 366 ringgit 90 cent per batch. So this margin is important because it ensures we can cover all our costs, maintain good cash flow and reinvest for future growth for our business. Finally, let's look at our job cost guide for one batch of 100 units of popcorn. So think of this as the master summary for our production. So we start by listing our direct costs, which is material, labor and expenses, which total 540 ringgit Malaysia. We then add our manufacturing overhead of 683 ringgit. So combining this, our total cost for this batch is 1,223 ringgit. So next, to determine our selling price, we apply 30% profit margin, which is Rm 366 ringgit 90 cent. So we add this profit to our total cost, which is 1,223 ringgit plus 366 ringgit 90 cent to get a total sales value per batch, which is 1,589 ringgit 90 cent. So to make it easier for our customer, we divide this batch total by 100 units. So this gives us a selling price per unit for the popcorn of Rm 50 ringgit 90 cent.
We employ a batch costing approach to determine the unit cost of our choco jars given our production model, which involves creating items in fixed, consistent groups. Batch costing is the most accurate method. By accumulating all direct expenses, including raw ingredients and packaging materials for each specific batch, we have calculated the total production cost. This total is then divided by the numbers of units produced in that batch, which allowing us to derive a precise cost per unit, ensuring accurate pricing and effective cost control. We have produced 100 units per week in a single batch to ensure maximum freshness and quality. For each jar, we use 120 grams of Barrel's chocolate, 80 grams of cereal, 30 grams of corn oil, and one 425 ml container. This brings our weekly requirement to 12 kg of chocolate, 8 kg of cereal, 3 kg of oil, and also 100 jars. Our production relies on one dedicated worker operating 40 hours per week from Monday to Friday. We categorize our labor cost based on function. The cooking process is classified as direct labor, accounting for 10 hours of the week at 10 ringgit per hour. totaling RM100. The remaining 30 hours, which cover customer service, cleaning and multimedia tasks, are classified as indirect labor and are tracked separately to keep our cost structure clean and accurate. Beyond ingredients and labor, we incur direct expenses for essential production tools, such as our mixing bowls and specialized utensils. These items are vital to our process, as they ensure the cereal is perfectly coated with hot milk chocolate for consistent finish. And we also classify this as one-time direct expenses because they are foundational tools required to set up and facilitate our weekly production batch. To maintain our production standards, we also rely on several indirect materials. We use dishwashing liquid to sanitize our tools before and after each batch, and our staff must wear plastic gloves and hand nets to ensure complete food hygiene. Additionally, we also use high-quality packaging tape to seal every jar, which guarantees they are airtight, leak-proof and stay fresh for our customers. We allocate 30 hours of our weekly labor to operational support, which we classify as indirect labor. These hours are divided equally into three core functions. First, customer service. Second, facility cleaning. And the third, multimedia management. With each role assigned 10 hours per week at 10 ringgit per hour, we invest 100 ringgit into each of these areas, totaling 300 ringgit in weekly indirect labor costs. Now, regarding facility costs, we utilize an equitable cost-sharing approach. All expenses, including rent, utilities, internet, business license, as well as operational subscription like Canva Pro and promotional materials, are split equally between our popcorn and Chocojal's product lines. This consequently, 50% of these monthly costs are allocated specifically to Chocojal production. But regarding depreciation, the Chocojal line enjoys a cost advantage as it does not require heavy machinery, which significantly reduces our overall indirect expenses. The first table, we aggregate all indirect materials, indirect labor, and indirect expenses to determine the total overhead required to sustain our weekly Chocojal production. Consolidating these costs ensures that all necessary operational support, ranging from staff and hygiene maintenance to shared facility expenses, is fully captured and accounted for within our weekly budget. Table 2 discusses how to ensure unit cost accuracy, and we utilize an overhead absorption rate OAR to distribute our weekly overhead across our 100 unit batch. This ensures every Chocojal carries its fair share of production costs. By determining the OAR per unit, we can effectively align our pricing strategy to cover both indirect expenses and overhead. Finally, this is essential for maintaining our long-term profitability.
So, in this section of our presentation, I will discuss the job cost accumulation and the profit determination for the production batch. As shown in our total production cost table, we have successfully categorized our costs to arrive at an accurate valuation. We started by calculating the prime cost, which is the sum of direct materials, direct labor, and direct expenses, amounting to 801 ringgit 30 cents. Following this, we allocated the manufacturing overhead, amounting to 673 ringgit to the job. By aggregating these figures, we have established a total production cost of 1,474 ringgit and 30 cents for this specific batch. Furthermore, in alignment with our financial objective, we have applied a 30% profit margin on this total cost, resulting in a profit value of RM442.29. Next, we move to our selling price calculation. It is vital that we set a price that covers our costs while ensuring a reasonable return. Based on our production capacity of 100 units per week, we have consolidated our total production cost and the desired profit to determine the total sales value. As reflected in the table, adding the RM1,474.30 production cost to the RM442.29 profit margin gives us a total sales value per batch of RM1,916.59. To finalize our pricing strategy, we divided this total sales value by our production volume of 100 units. Consequently, our calculated selling price is RM19.70 per unit. This systematic approach ensures that every unit contributes effectively towards both cost recovery and profitability. To conclude our analysis, let me review the job cost card. This document serves as the formal subsidiary ledger for this job, capturing the full cost flow. As you can see, it provides a granular breakdown of all direct costs, which includes RM621.30 for materials, RM100 for labor, and RM18 for expenses, totaling a prime cost of RM801.30. Additionally, the card details the manufacturing overhead, which comprises indirect materials, indirect labor, and indirect expenses, totaling RM672.75. By synthesizing these elements, we arrive at the same total production cost of RM1,474.30. This card is a critical control tool for our accounting process, as it reconciles all production inputs against our final output, reinforcing the accuracy of our per unit selling price of RM19.70. That concludes the detailed costing analysis for this job. Thank you.
In conclusion, this product costing analysis helps Sasabai determine the actual cost of producing popcorn and chocoja by accurately. By using direct materials, direct labor, and manufacturing overhead, it also supports effective pricing, cost control, and financial planning while providing a strong foundation for best decision making in the business and achieving sustainability business growth. That's all from us. Thank you.